Hello,
Right.
everyone. We're the Ascension podcast, and we know what we're doing, and we
We
hopefully
don't.
won't fuck this all up. There we go. Lovely, audio's working. Sorry, we had a little bit of a mare this morning, just trying to get everything, or this afternoon even, trying to get everything figured out. But hello, welcome to the Ascension podcast for the 13th
13th of the
of
4th.
April. Yes, 13th of April. 7 days until 420. Everyone, that's right. Well, oh shit, that actually means that the next podcast is going to be on the 20th. Oh, right, okay, we're doing it stoned. No, we're not. That would be
Yeah.
illegal and immoral.
Yeah, but it would be fun.
It
So
would be fun.
you kind of negate the illegal immorality of it
Yeah,
with how fun it'll be.
yeah,
Obviously.
definitely.
So why don't we just do that now?
I mean, we could. We definitely could. Anyway, so yeah, today, Lewis is busy and Alien is busy, so I've got the C team in today. I've
The
got
C
input.
team.
Yeah,
No, you always bring the C team in for all your
always bring.
heroic
Yeah, definitely.
things and stuffs, I guess.
Things and stuffs. Exactly. So, yeah, today is going to be, just talking a little bit about different sorts of like technology and games and stuff as per usual. If you are interested, if you're watching this on the VOD or the Spotify stream, we are live every Saturday at 3 p.m. BST, so British summertime. And if it's not British summertime, 3 p.m. GMT, so just the same time really there. Over on twitch.tv/VaraxenHD. So today we've got a couple of topics. It's just gonna be probably a short one, hopefully. But we're gonna be talking about firstly the sort of state of VR and game remakes and stuff like that, and we'll see where it goes from there, I suppose. So yeah, without further ado,
Yeah, let's get this show
let's
on
get
the
the
road.
show on the road. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about today is the Valve Index, the new VR headset that's coming out. I'm not sure if you know much about it, Input.
I have no idea. I'm just
You
about
have
to Google
no
it.
idea. You're just about to Google it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So winging it is the name of this episode, guys. We have no idea what we're doing.
this is why.
Yeah. Because we have no
Well,
planning. Literally, our planning sessions are about 10 minutes before we go live. Because
I mean, I think this time it was about 4.3. Yeah.
4.3
Plus,
minutes.
I had to download loads of programs before we started as well. That took us that exact time frame.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So going back to the VR headset,
Yeah, VR
May
headsets. So
May, May 2019.
May 2019, soon TM.
Yeah, that's literally. I know that literally all I know about it.
Yeah. So the Valve Index is sort of like a. You know how they have the HTC Vive, which is like partnership with Valve to create that, and it's sort
Yeah.
of like the one that they sell on their flagship. This is going to replace that, and it's developed in-house and manufactured, I believe, in-house by Valve because they have their own like big manufacturing plant or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. Apparently, it's going to have like a lot of better quality stuff. I believe the like the sort of whole premise of it is that it's going to have like two lenses at the front, which help with different angles of view and stuff. Like you have like a larger field of view, which helps with motion sickness. It's got good quality because like it's got a denser collection of pixels in the display on the headset, and it's got good audio drivers built in, so you don't need like external headphones. You can, I think, use external headphones. But yeah, so yeah, it's got like it's sort of paving the way for like new VR headsets and stuff with all these like sort of technological additions to VR headsets, which have up until now been pretty samey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the specs side of things, I've literally on my googling session just now, I've found your minimum and recommended requirements that you could
Oh yeah,
have to use this,
yeah.
which any dual core with hyperthreading,
Oh right, so like
no
basically any
CPU.
CPU.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Everybody's bog standard 8 gig of RAM. Everybody has to have 8 gig of RAM. If you don't, then why are you even PC gaming?
yeah. To be fair,
Apparently, let's jump over to the stream chat where Joe4422 says this is actually surprisingly good. This is my first ever podcast. Thank you.
yes. Inputs sort of a virgin. He's been
Yeah,
watching all of the well, maybe watching but listening definitely. do all of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stuff
I've been
on
listening to all
Spotify
the
and stuff. Yeah.
previous episodes. That's good. Minimum GPU GTX 90 or an AMD RX 480.
Oh right,
They're
it's like a
pretty
970-ish.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Apparently on the recommended scale, though, you do need a GTX 1070 or better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I have a 1070 Ti, so I only just, I suppose I'll buy this thing just for the crack of it, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
I've never used a VR headset
no.
before.
Yeah, I
I'll
mean, I've got
probably
a
end up,
960, so 1060, sorry, rather. So
oof, I'll probably end up falling over my child at some point. Just running around, killing some zombies,
tripping hazard, dude.
kick my kid in the head,
Oh god.
Doing some reflexology,
Oh yeah, man.
Obviously you're gonna have your thumb pads or whatever they're called, and I'm gonna try and kick out because you've got actual human reflexes, and then my child's gonna die. It's gonna be
It's
great.
gonna be great. Just curb stomp your kid. Just
Yeah. Boom. Oh god, that felt surprisingly real. What happened?
Oh
Yes,
man, yeah,
great.
haptic feedback. Oh dear. Yeah, so yeah,
Oh.
it's a pretty cool sort of headset. My experience with VR is literally like it's basically just I have a Samsung Gear VR headset which works with my phone. I have an S8, and like it's cool, but from like my experience anyway, it's really low quality. Like, I mean, I'm using a phone VR experience. I'm not using like a proper desktop experience with all the processing power behind it and everything. But VR is sort of like you have to have some really good games that are like really innovative, and I think there are a lot of games out there that do that. There's games like Job Simulator, which is like quite popular, and it does like sort of use the VR mechanics and stuff. There's games like Beat Saber, which is really cool, and like it's just different ways of playing games. But games like Beat Saber, for example, it feels like it's sort of, I don't know, it feels like it could be a static game, like how you have Guitar Hero. It's fairly similar to Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
But they've just sort of like made it so you can move your head and look around. So I don't know, like it feels like to really get your money's worth out of VR, you actually have to have a product which makes full use of VR and different sort of technologies associated with it, which is something I don't think like many VR games do, just because they're quite new. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, on going back to the Valve Index, I've just had a look at the thumb pads or whatever you're supposed to call them. I think they're called Knuckles EV2.
Oh yeah, the Knuckles. Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, they look sort of very quite ergonomic. They've got like a nice tightened hand strap. You can, so when you are doing your reflexology, you're not throwing them across the room.
Yeah.
Unlike unlike the Wii remotes, people.
Oh my god, my sister absolutely deleted our old TV just playing bowling, and she didn't have the strap on. It went straight through the fucking screen, like the front BDU. It was dead.
Yeah, you definitely need your strap-ons.
Yeah, definitely. Joe says that the Gear VR is only 3 degrees of freedom, like so you can only sort of look around, but your position is solid. Like you can't like move around.
So you can't do like
you can't like you can't like do jujitsu.
You're right. You're in a fixed point, so you're not going to run out your window at some point.
Yeah, and you can use the controller to like point and move around and stuff, but like you don't have the other you don't have like lateral movement and stuff. So because the Gear VR and not the Gear VR, the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, they all have, I'm pretty sure, have like sensors you can put up in your room, and then they like know where you are and stuff. I think that's how it works. I'm not like a VR expert, to be honest, but
yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I've never worn a VR headset.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty.
They're kind of weird. You do get like very cross-eyed, especially with the Gear VR. It's quite small.
I always thought it was quite funny with the virtual reality because they're genuinely just putting a screen right in front of your face, so your whole sort of eye sensory reception is just taken up by this screen in front of you.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when I used to sit so close to my TV, my mother would be like, get away from the TV, you'll get square eyes. Like
Yeah.
one, actually having square eyes would look pretty cool. But you know, two, this is just taking that idea and putting a TV so close to your eyeballs you can't see anything else.
Mm.
And as you know, I don't see people walking around with square eyes yet.
Yeah, no,
Come on.
I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, you sort of have to have something which takes good use of the space to make it all worthwhile. Like you just like deleting your eyes slowly,
Yeah,
turning them into
yeah,
goop. And like you said, the Knuckles controllers, which are now called the Valve Index controllers, they're not called the Knuckles controllers anymore. I'm pretty sure.
that right.
They
Thanks, Google.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was all on a leak, so it's technically not official information, but it's like as close as we're gonna get. But yeah, like stuff like that, where basically, I'm not sure how if you know how that works from your Google escapades, but it's basically like the strap, like you said, is part of it, but that only holds like your hand to the controller. You don't actually grip the controller, and what it
Yeah,
does is it
yeah.
has pressure sensors in the shaft of the controller. So you grip the shaft and you can like pull it really hard, and then it makes stuff happen. Um, don't isolate that.
I can't. I wanted to interject so
Yeah,
much.
no,
Tonight.
you're not interjecting there, dude.
Grab that shaft
Grab the
and spread
shaft.
that mayonnaise.
Yeah. Oh Christ. But no, yeah. So basically, like you put your say you want to grip something with only your middle two fingers. You only put your middle two fingers on the like sort of handle, and it will know that you've only got those two fingers on it. So you can
All
like
right, that's
you have like full 5 finger sort of flexibility with whatever you want to do.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's pretty good actually. I do like how that sort
Yeah,
of
that's pretty decent handle. You know, most guys will probably get the hang of it, you know,
pretty fast. Yeah,
easier than a lot
the
of females. I
easier
would have
than women.
guessed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Uh,
Let's
let's
move
move
on.
away. Yeah, let's move away from it.
Yeah.
So one of the games that's coming with VR is the Half-Life VR game.
That sounds fun, actually.
Yes, it
To be
does.
fair.
I don't think we know much about it, and it's mostly like a load of leaks and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but the good thing with that is they're actually making they're using their IPs to make a new game, and there's not just that one as well. There's two other games coming.
Right.
So they're making 3 VR games with the sort of launch of the Valve Index or nearabouts, I think. And that's been something they've been doing for a while. And so, like, when you have stuff like Source Engine updates for Dota 2 or for Half-Life, not Half-Life, CSGO, like games like that, right? Games based on the Source Engine, then there's sort of small snippets of code which refer to Half-Life. And I think the most recent ones were like about the shotgun, the shotgun weapon, and there's different reloads and stuff. So that's like making good use of the space, right? If they sort of have it so that you have to physically like do the reload instead of just holding down a button,
Yeah.
that's like one
But
of the
like
good ways that they can do it.
going to back to the Half Life, is it actually going to be Half Life, or is it going to be like a Half Life based game? So is it going to like continue the story, or do we literally know nothing
Um,
about this?
I
Because I know
think,
nothing about this.
yeah, I think there is like a little bit to know about it. But yeah, like don't think it's gonna be like Half-Life 3,
Yeah,
but at
because
the same
I'm reading
time,
here that it's going to be like a prequel to Half Life 2,
yeah,
or it's going to be like a Half Life 1.5 rather than actual Half Life 3. Um, yeah,
yeah,
I guess we'll just have to wait until it comes out to see what the score is then. I mean, there doesn't seem to be too much news out there.
mm.
Unless anybody else knows.
Yeah,
No.
no, I mean Joe might know, because I know he knows a bit about Half-Life, but yeah, like the thing is with game like sort of remakes, it's not really a remake, but it's like they're coming back to the game, sort of. So they've sort of stopped doing Half-Life games, obviously, and then they're just now coming back to the IP. So I'm interested to see like what's going to be different, if anything, because a lot of like the original development team for Half-Life 2 have been laid off or they've left or whatever. Like Mark Laidlaw, the writer for the Half-Life 2, I'm not, and I think the episodes. I'm not sure about Half-Life 1. It might be. Um, like he's left and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see like what the current staff are gonna do with Half-Life VR. Joe, we were just wondering if Half-Life VR is gonna be like a Half-Life 2 prequel or something. Like, I mean, they have said it will release.
Yeah,
Considering like because it's one of the 3 confirmed games. I'm pretty sure that it is actually been confirmed. I'm not sure. There are like some PC game stuff, but we will take a look really quick. I'll scan through this. But yeah, they've got to have something that like shows off their new hardware, their new platform. Because if they don't have like stuff that shows off the Knuckles controllers, or if they have stuff that shows off like the new field of view and everything and the new quality, then there's basically like no point of releasing it because it's just going to be swamped by titles taking advantage of other pieces of hardware.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if I'm honest with you, obviously Half-Life. This might surprise you. This might not surprise you, but I never actually got a hold of Half-Life to play. Any of them.
Okay, thanks for watching,
Just
guys.
completely
We will
disappointed
see
in my
you
life.
next week when we don't have a complete invalid.
My issue basically being is that before I've literally only come to sort of PC gaming, and I wasn't much of a gamer back when I was at school. I was always like out and about with my friends. So
yeah, fair enough.
I did play a lot of games while I was younger, but I just never came across Half-Life, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah, you should totally pick it up.
I can still pick it up nowadays, and still go through it.
It's one of the best games of all time, just based on like.
Let's have a look. Where would I find
past experience, I guess. Steam, obviously.
Okay, so
it's really good though. While you're having a look at that, just like the thing is with Half-Life is obviously like the big thing with Half-Life is that it's never going to get continued. Like I've just sort of accepted it now.
Well, I don't know, because it's still drumming up a lot of.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, even though I haven't played it, it's still drumming up a lot of interest, like a ridiculous amount of interest, even nowadays. So I can't imagine that they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
Valve might even have like Half-Life 3 in the works, but being super secretive about it.
Yeah, they might do, but I doubt.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's look at Half-Life 2. I mean, it's going to be one of those. Half-Life 2 is something that I could probably get behind, because Half-Life 1 now just looks really sort of old.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick up Black Mesa, which is a source version of Half-Life 1, so it looks like it was set in it's got the same graphics, even better graphics than Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
Which is quite good, so that's called Black Mesa. But yeah,
I think I actually have that in my Steam or something.
Yeah,
I've got
it's a good game. It's a really good game.
Right, I'll install that.
You gone. See you later. He's gonna go play it now.
Let's go install first. I don't know how big this is. Black Mesa, you've played 16 minutes of, yes.
16 minutes, nice. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with, like, as Joe is rightly pointing out in chat, is that the gameplay was basically designed first, and then the story was built around the gameplay, like the sort of physics-based puzzle and FPS combat stuff. Was all sort of designed first, and then they were like, oh yeah, we could let's do the story and make it in this way with all this stuff. I mean, sure, they had some like design ideas, but it wasn't ever really about like how great the story was. It was about how good the like the gameplay elements were at the time. And that's like the great thing. I mean, the great thing about Half-Life is it's got a really rich universe. They've told the story really well. But that wasn't like the main part of it, because if it was just a really good story but the gameplay was shit, then, and like vice versa as well, then it'd be kind of like a subpar game. But as it stands, it's one of the greatest games of all time, at least in my opinion.
So so let's move on to the Project Borealis game.
Oh yes, Project Borealis. It's almost like we have a script that we're reading off.
Yeah, right?
No,
it's crazy.
Script.
Preparedness and all this.
Yeah, we prepared like 2 minutes before. Yeah, so Project Borealis, are you on the website?
Yeah, I'm just having a quick read of it now. It looks good.
It does look good, doesn't it? It looks really cool. I think the main thing with Project Borealis is like, well, the whole sort of community mods thing to continue the game is like all sort of, like I said, it's all based on the community now, that like people have just sort of given up waiting, and they're sort of thinking, okay, right, well, it's our turn to try and do this thing now, so see you later, and they're off just
Yeah.
doing their thing, right? um but yeah, like there's two main projects, for those of you who don't know, that are basically continuations of what's called Epistle III, which was the ex sort of main writer for the Half-Life series, Mark Laidlaw. He sort of wrote on his blog his vision for how Half-Life 3 would have ended. And you can go and read that in your own time if you want to. But basically, there's two community projects mainly that are based on that story. There's Project Borealis, which is I believe, Unreal Engine backed sort of um, modern take on the Half-Life franchise. Like, what if Half-Life 3, with the Epistle 3 story, was made in this time, like in 2019, right? Obviously, it hasn't started in 2019. It started 2 years ago, probably something like that. But yeah. So um, Project Borealis is the sort of modern equivalent, and then we also have what was it? Uh, Boreal Aleph, which, if I can get the
Yeah,
website up,
Boreal
yeah,
Aleph.
Boreal Aleph as well.
Yeah, it's
Um,
based on the Mark Laidlaw short story Epistle 3.
yes, again, so it's basically the same sort of irk as Project Borealis, in that it's based on Mark Laidlaw's vision for the game, but it's made in Source using some improvements to the Source engine, uh, basically improving the graphical capabilities and stuff like that to more of the irk that you would see in a game like Black Mesa over Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 isn't old graphics, but it's sort of dated graphics.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So obviously, games like Dota and CSGO are running on the Source engine still, or versions of Source stroke bits of Source 2 in, which hasn't officially been released yet, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so they're basically just the same game, and they're sort of not competing, but they're sort of in the same atmosphere as a community-led mod trying to make the vision of the ex Half-Life writer. So it's sort of, if not official, but sort of. Um, which has, and this game is, so it's in the Source engine, which means it has a Source license, and therefore it's sort of backed by Valve as well, which is interesting. So Valve haven't like tried to shut this down or anything, um, which is really good. And the same with Project Borealis for not being in the Source engine, but being a Half-Life sort of irk for game, which I like. It's good that Valve are sort of respecting creative sort of license, I guess, for their IPs. I
Yeah.
mean, there will be some close talks with Valve to make sure that they aren't making their IP sort of like look bad or whatever. Um, haha, Hunt Down the
Ah.
Freeman. Have you ever heard of Hunt Down the Freeman?
I haven't. No.
Oh man, you're in for a treat, my brother. So for those of you at home that don't know, Hunt Down the Freeman was an absolute ass of a game. Um, it was basically like a sort of half. It was written in between like Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. So that's the sort of position it takes, and it's about you play as a character whose name I can't remember because I don't give a shit. Who like is really edgy and stuff, and it was like it was like really broken when it launched, and there was like no polish gone into it. It was an absolute scam in terms of money and stuff, and it brought like a really negative view onto community made stuff like that. I wish Hunt Down the Freeman was canon, because it is, 100% the best game we ever heard of, but unfortunately it's not. Um, yeah, so Hunt Down the Freeman, man, what a fuck up. But yeah, community mods in general are really good, and personally I think that like as long as they stay true to the sort of cloth that they were cut from, then you're gonna have a really good product in the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, like community made sort of spin-offs or games that come thereafter. It
Yeah,
can usually be quite good, like you say, if they cut from the same cloth. But then you get sometimes like, I mean, if you were to say buy mods or download free mods for any game, let's say Skyrim for example, because it's probably the one of the most biggest and modded, sort of modding communities that are out there that I've heard of. There's this flipping millions, and there's multiple different
yeah,
websites you can download content from for that game. But like some of them are just stupid.
yeah. Like some of them
Like,
you just shouldn't exist.
yeah, right. So especially if you want to get in, immersion. If you want to immerse, you want to have decent immersive experience in the same universe. It can just get really stupid. Like, have you ever heard of? Obviously, you'll have heard of the one of the main websites you download from, which is the Nexus.
Yes,
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Lover's Lab?
I have, unfortunately.
Yes, right. So if you are into weird stuff, you download your mods from Lovers Lab. But if you just want immersion, do not go there. You will be horrified.
Yeah, it's not great,
Well, like I
dude.
said, community made games, community made mods. They can be really good. So I mean that's one good thing I suppose of PC gaming, because you don't really get many mods for consoles that I've heard of. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I know what you
yeah.
mean. Like, the thing is that community mods and sort of spin-offs in games can be either a boon or a curse, really, as we see with Hunt Down the Freeman, and as we see with both Borealis and Project Borealis, where there's obviously like a lot of love for the series. And like, don't get me wrong, I think Hunt Down the Freeman had like some good intentions, but its execution was shit, and that's like something that the sort of owners of the IP, whether it be Bethesda or whether it be Valve, need to sort of look at this stuff and say like, this doesn't meet the sort of requirement of quality that we expect from your games, or like from our IP, and so we don't want you to continue, like cease and desist style, like stop what you're doing and fix your shit. Um, I don't know if you know this as well. Like Urlock the Wizard says in chat, Titanfall was also Source Engine based, and that had really good graphics for its time. And Titanfall 2, I think, was loosely based on Source Engine as well, but I think it had some other um, graphics engine or something as well that made it a bit better. But yeah, I think if I'm saying that
Man,
correctly, I might be chatting out my ass. But yeah, Titanfall Source Engine.
yeah, you could probably tell by now that I have literally no
No
idea what I'm
idea
talking
what's
about.
going on.
Yeah, it's just I'm
Uh,
just literally just taking cues and then googling it, and then it's just like, right, what can I find?
yeah.
It's like this looks legit. Say it.
All right.
There's
So
like there's been zero research. That's how we do.
yeah.
Winging it.
So yeah, I mean for you, just like with community mods with Skyrim, I know you played a lot of Skyrim.
Yeah, man. I played it. I played a few thousand hours of Skyrim.
Do you know much about like sort of big conversion projects for Skyrim and like sort of Bethesda games in general?
Oh right, yeah. So coming into Skyrim, there's a couple of I think probably the biggest projects that I know of is called Skyblivion and Skywind,
Yeah,
where they're obviously bringing the older games to this sort of revamped Skyrim engine and graphics. I'd definitely like to see Oblivion played in the same style as Skyrim was made in. I would love that. They do have Discord servers and that, and you can be a patron and you donate money and stuff like that. They're really sort of big projects. They've got no release time,
yeah, no,
as
they
far
never
as
really
I'm
do,
aware
do
of, and
they?
I'm really sad about, because at the point where they're going to be like, right, this is ready, we're going to have the next Elder Scrolls game, and it's just going to be like, well, got this to play now,
Yeah,
and all their hard work is just going to be like, just probably not looked at for a long time until people have gotten their fill of the new Elder Scrolls.
mm,
Then they'll probably go back and replay Oblivion on Skyrim.
yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where they just never had enough people to churn this game, to churn this massive mod out, which is really sad. But
Mm.
it could come before the new Elder Scrolls. I mean, I'd be flipping
Do you
ecstatic
reckon
if
it
that
will come
happened.
out from before the
Well, I
next?
mean, I don't think they're gonna stop working on it if the next Elder Scrolls comes out because I still everybody's still playing Skyrim. Like, what? How long has it been out since 2011? Was it 2011?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I
people are
think something
still
like that.
playing. People are still playing Skyrim now and still modding it. I mean, I know I'm still playing it and still modding it, still downloading mods and whatnot. So I don't think it's just gonna completely fall off. And if these two mods, Skyblivion and Skywind, come out, I think people are going to go back to Skyrim for a long time and play them because I tried going back to Oblivion, I tried going back to Morrowind after Skyrim, and it's just like I can't,
No.
I can't do it anymore. I got too used to the fighting on Skyrim with the. I got too used to fighting on Skyrim. It was completely brand new. You dual wield and stuff a lot better, and instead of like obviously it was on the console I first played it, so you had like a sword in one hand, sword in the other, and it wasn't really awkward to use or anything. It was just flipping go at your enemies left, right, and
Yeah.
center. But yeah, I tried going back to the old games, and it's just I can't. I really can't. It's like if you went back to if you go back to like Half-Life 1 now.
Yeah. No, yeah,
It's like
like I know what
every
you mean.
everybody has massive square heads, square bodies. Like Tomb Raider now, Tomb Raider 1, she had those massive triangle boobs,
Yeah. Right, exactly.
massive
And now
pyramid titties.
yeah, now it's a massive sort of movie and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, but it's crazy because like if you go back to the first Tomb Raider and just look at the graphics there, and then look at the graphics now, I mean we've definitely come a long way.
oh yeah, without a doubt,
Like back in the day on PlayStation 1, you were like, damn, this game is lit. Look how good the graphics are. And then, we're just saying that every year. Damn, this is lit. Look how good the graphics are.
yeah,
And
it will continue to go forever.
when you look back at games like when was the first Tomb Raider? It must be almost like 18 years ago now or something daft.
Christ, yeah,
It
even
must be
longer than that,
somewhere
I
like that.
reckon.
And it's just like, how the fuck did we ever think
Yeah,
that
like this
these
was good.
massive triangular boobs were nice?
Yeah. I
Man, if
mean
you like tried to get in on that, you'd just be stabbed.
you just lose blood and that's it.
That's it. You're done. You're
Mm.
done, Zod.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think yeah, definitely one of the big things is graphics, right? But like the other thing is just having the experience to play the game without having to run it in 4:3 resolution, right? Like when it's like a story that I always bring up. Um, with when I first played Knights of the Old Republic, and
oh
that was
yeah,
a really good game, and I loved it. But it was like every time I opened it up, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna have to subject myself to like really low resolution, not being able to play in borderless, so I can't tab out easily because I tab out quite a lot.
yeah.
Oh my god, who's that guy? No, it's some directors and people. I'm just playing the trailer in the background. There's just some random guy. But yeah, like just playing KOTOR and having this, it was like so hard to play that game really. Whereas in you know more recent games, I mean there isn't a KOTOR remake, but the new what's that next Star Wars game that Respawn are developing, which is supposed to be like talked about today or something. Can't remember what it's called.
Oh
Fallen Order or something.
yeah, I've
Jedi
seen it
Fallen.
recently actually.
I
Respawn
can't remember
stuff.
what it's called. But yeah, like you know,
It's gonna be the first. It's called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. There you go. So
Yeah, and that looks legit, man.
it
It
does seem
does.
that it's going to be quite good, and so like the sort of experience of playing games as well, not just the graphics, has improved massively.
Yeah, I mean it's like when oh god, man, words in English. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, they're hard.
When was that? Do you know the Force Awakens Star Wars game, and how good was that when it first came out?
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was pretty good.
it was definitely probably one of the better Star Wars games because you got to do pretty much everything. You got to you jump around like flipping Yoda on Episode 3.
Yeah,
Jesus. Um, I mean, like that was good. So I'm kind of hyped for Jedi Fallen Order. There isn't too much about it. I mean, the poster that I've got on my screen right now just looks badass. There's like a giant ship in the background. You've got obviously, who must be a Jedi because he's got a blue lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, with those TIE fighters all above, so it looks like shit's just about to go down in that picture, which always looks good.
Yeah.
I'm hyped for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, yeah, I had a massive thing I was gonna say then, and it's just gone from my brain like fucking air.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's completely gone.
Our listeners definitely do not want to hear us
Yeah.
talking about
Oh
what we
yeah,
want,
that's right.
what we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I was gonna say like there are very few developers like I by default have quite a lot of sort of I don't know good thoughts towards nowadays. You know, like EA can fuck off and stuff like
I
that,
get
right?
that a lot.
But like,
Everybody just wants to jump on
yeah.
that EA hate train.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it's true, right? Like, and
It's
Bethesda as
true.
well. I'm sort of losing faith in Bethesda because I
Yeah,
did not like. I mean, I did like Fallout 76 until it fucked me over, and I just
yeah.
realized how shit it was.
Fair, I thought Fallout 76 was a little bit of a
Yeah,
letdown. I think mainly because for me, as of obviously last year, I haven't had much time to game anymore like I used to.
yeah,
So whenever I came on and I was playing with a bunch of my friends and obviously yourself, you were all like massively high leveled, and I'm just like, help me,
yeah,
help, help me! I'm in this area I shouldn't be in. Please save my life.
yeah, yeah. Right.
Yeah, it it was just like it was crazy, and
Mm.
that seems to be happening a lot recently. You know, to have kids, it's a trap.
Yeah, yeah. It's bad, dude. Too much money. But
Yeah,
yeah, like, but yeah, and the Elder Scrolls Blades, which is the mobile game, is also trash.
is
It's
it?
like,
I downloaded it, but I got really really fucked up because I like played the game. I was on like the beta, and when I tried to like play the beta, it was just like, oh, actually, you can't play the beta yet.
yeah, no, yeah. It was like, I want to
Why?
play this game. Nope, bye. We are limiting access.
Yeah,
And it was like, turn on notifications. And I was like, how?
like I would I would rather them have just released if you could sign up to the beta, then you get to play the beta.
Yeah,
Not sign up to the beta and actually you don't get to play the beta until we tell you can play the beta.
yeah,
It's like, well, you've got a beta, you should just have a beta with so many people that signed up to it, play the beta, and then
yeah,
everybody else gets the full release of the game. Like betas and free access, just they do my head in.
yeah, me
Like they
too.
really do my let's go to Anthem for instance.
Oh, shit.
I played the alpha and I played the beta and I played the demo and I played I played Charlie, I played Delta, I played everything that I could before the game.
Yeah,
And then when the game came out, I'd lost all the hype. And then
yeah,
it was just wow, well this was done. And then it didn't have enough content. I'm thinking maybe if I didn't play the beta, I would still probably be playing Anthem now. So as far as I'm aware, betas just do my nutting nowadays.
yeah. I think the thing is with betas, this is something that I said in one of my YouTube videos, actually. The YouTube video that I did, the first one that I did on the Division 2, which is betas have now become a marketing tool more than a
Yeah,
platform for testing. Like Fallout 76, it was like a week after the beta, the game released. How the
yeah,
fuck are they going to
which
fix
is stupid.
anything in a week?
Yeah,
Like,
they're
and
not.
they
No,
didn't.
beta should
They made
literally
it
be beta.
worse. Yeah, they made it worse. And Anthem had more time, sure, but there was like, I think the thing is
Very
with
little.
Anthem is at the sort of quote end game, there was no like content there at all, really. And I was having fun with the game actually. I didn't think I would. I was having fun with the game in the early game, and then it got to a point in the story where the mood and the tempo of the game changed in such a way that I was just like, I'm not playing this game anymore. Like, it was when you had to do that sort of grindy bit halfway through the story, and I was like, I can't be fucked to grind to continue with the story. I might just uninstall the game, and I did
Yeah.
soon enough. Like, Anthem had much worse problems than that, and I can't really comment on them because I didn't play like the end of the game. But
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
yeah,
like I played it until I was like max level for the time. If and I lost interest like really quickly.
yeah,
Uh, uh, Joe in the chat, he's got a nice little play on words there. I like that. That was good.
betas, more like betas. Nice.
Yeah.
Very
Come,
nice.
just flipping. That's just AAA titles, just fishing for idiots.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to say that I was one of them idiots when it comes to Anthem. I mean, I played betas in the past, and I'm pretty sure I baited like maybe 60 games total, possibly, um, something like that. And all of well, I wouldn't say all of them, but a lot of the games have done what they should have been doing for betas is literally I was reporting bugs and stuff, and that is literally all the betas there for. Alphas and betas, that's all they're there for.
Yeah.
Bugs and sorry, I can't. This can of Coke that's on the ground here, I can't run over it. Why?
Yeah.
What's going on? It's
Exactly.
just
Like small
that's
stuff like
exactly
that.
what a beta is supposed to be
Yeah.
for. It's not early access. It's get stuff.
Yeah. By definition, an alpha is a test to add new features and try those new features, and look for bugs like big bugs and stuff like runtime errors, crashes. And a beta is supposed to be for polishing, adding small tweaks and improvements to make the product better. And then post-release support is supposed to be, again, just more tweaks, but your product should be stable by that point, right? And
Unlike Fallout 76.
Fallout 76 was not at all a
not stable.
a stable
not
or
stable.
polished game. Anthem was pretty unstable. Like, I'm pretty sure people just couldn't get into the game when the demo was released. And stuff like that. And they were just like the beta and the alpha was so bad, which is why, like I was gonna say earlier, before we had this good conversation about betas, is that like there are very little developers that I trust, and that's mostly just because like all they've put out recently is shit, like Bethesda and EA.
Yeah.
Ubisoft, actually, I have a lot of like good faith in, and that's not just because of TD2, but it's also because of games like Wildlands, which I actually love to bits. Like Ghost Recon Wildlands was such a great game. Didn't play it enough than I did, but really good game. And also Rainbow Six Siege as well is a really good game.
Yeah, I enjoyed Rainbow Six.
I think.
Was,
Yeah, I think those games that Ubisoft put out, like their main Tom Clancy's games, they're really quite polished actually nowadays. The Division 2 beta launched really well. There was only some small issues, and they were fixed with like a day 2 patch, right? Like some of them were fixed on release. All of the audio issues were fixed on day 2 or day 1 rather, like the release patch. And then the day 2 patch came out and fixed some like loading issues and some collision issues and stuff like that. And the steady stream of content they've been giving us with like World Tier 5 updates and stuff is a lot like sort of what I'd expect from a game of that size.
yeah.
I don't know. So yeah. Did I like just...
Yeah.
Have I just been playing that fucking... I have, haven't I? I was actually playing the trailer in the background, but I hadn't switched the scene on OBS.
Yes.
At least I think. I don't know.
I mean, I think we've probably covered that subject quite a bit there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you want to sort of try talking about like HD remasters or remakes of games that have that come out recently or are coming out?
I think what sort of
one
games do you
I'd
think
like
of?
to
Yeah, go
one
for it.
I'd like to bring up is the new Resident Evil 2.
Oh yes.
Oh my god, that looks so good.
Yeah,
like,
Resi 2 looks pretty good.
Yeah, so I haven't actually managed to get my hands on it yet, but I've been watching like you know who Team 4-Star are?
Yes.
Yeah, they do like their characters play games, so they've got one called Vegeta Plays.
Right.
And he played the Resident Evil 2 remake, and he's definitely a funny commentator. But I was just watching it for the game itself, to see how it plays, to see how it works, and honestly, they couldn't have done any better than that. I don't think. Anybody, I don't know if you've seen it or played it yourself.
Right. I haven't, no, so.
Yeah, well, definitely give it a look. The other ones another one that I played recently as well with the remakes or remasters is the sort of revisiting over the past couple of years or so. They're revisiting like the origins of Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So I would say that I don't know if they're sort of remakes or remasters or just new games altogether, because they are going back to like how she was when she first became the Tomb Raider, rather than just being the Tomb Raider, is how the first two games for her went.
Yeah. I mean, I have actually played like I played the remastered like Tomb Raider, not like they didn't have a subtitle, and the one after that, which I can't remember. I
Yeah.
haven't played the newest one. Um, but like the two before that I've played. Yeah, they were actually quite good. I like there was a whole sort of another aspect to it, like other than just the story. I only played the story. I only gave a shit about the story really. Um, actually, was it Shadow of the Tomb Raider or is that the new one?
I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's the new one, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
I think it might be Tomb Raider games.
Rise of the Tomb Raider 2015. Okay, so I played Rise of the Tomb Raider and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider I think is the new one.
Yeah, Shadow of the Tomb
Yeah.
Raider. I pretty sure I played Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It should be on my Steam, possibly. Uh, Maybe, I don't know.
Actually, like I had a really good time with Rise of the Tomb Raider. Actually, the first Tomb Raider was actually quite good, but yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider I had a lot of fun with because it was the first one that I actually had. I went back and got the original Tomb Raider, or not the original one, but the new remake original one. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's not really
yeah.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
played that because I was impressed with it, and it's a lot of fun actually.
yeah, yeah. Do you know what I think is missing from a lot of games now, remasters or just a normal game, is
Mm.
uh, like just little tiny fun aspects. You know, little things you could do on the side that,
Yeah.
you know, like say Tomb Raider 2, for instance. You never played
Mm.
it, I don't think,
No.
but you could lock your butler in the freezer or the fridge or whatever you'd call it. It's a walk-in flipping frozen pantry.
Right.
Honestly, you'd go into this big freezer cupboard thing, um, where you had to press like a massive button on the wall, because obviously graphics back in them days wouldn't allow you to do like a little tiny button. It had to be like a massive button. You'd go in
Yeah.
there, you'd go in there, and he would just follow you all over this flipping mansion. Like he would just be there when. So you'd think he's just like Freddy or Jason, you know.
Yeah.
When you're just running at like 600 miles an hour to get away from them, but they're only walking speed, but they're still right behind you.
Yeah.
It was like that with this butler. He was always there. So
Wow.
you get into this cupboard, and then you'd have to face the wall and wait till he's right behind you, then do a backflip and jump over him, leave, press the button to lock that creepy little fuck in there, and then you could go around the mansion and do whatever you want. That was pretty fun to
Wow.
do,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, definitely. There's
But
like just like fun stuff like that.
yeah, so little things like that, I think are missing from games nowadays,
Yeah,
and
I
yeah,
think there is sort of like a lack of. I mean, in games like Division 2, there are like Easter eggs and stuff. Like there's small subtle nods to other games, or there's like sort of possible future updates and stuff like that. But like there's no sort of like little. Well, at least people haven't really found any sort of like funny tricks you could just do with like NPCs or whatever.
yeah,
As far as I
yeah,
know, anyway.
that would be fun. Just to,
Yeah.
I don't know, say in the division, you know, you could possibly take the crutch away from the woman who lost her legs. You know, that'd be pretty fun. No, I'm
Yeah, I
joking. That'd be
think
fun.
not. The Ascension podcast does not condone acts of violence
Fun.
on disabled people. Um, non-disabled people are fine though. But yeah,
Right.
no. So
There are no minorities in Ascension podcasts.
no, definitely not. But yeah, so I think
Everyone
remake
is
games
equal.
sort of yeah. I think sort of remake games are like I said, like we've been saying for the last 15 minutes or so. Like the whole topic is sort of like you either get a really good game which is really polished and stuff and it does the original justice, or it doesn't. And there are cases where it does, and there are cases where it doesn't. And like the Tomb Raider games, I think the new ones are an example of like the core gameplay is there, and like the world building is even better than it was before. The graphics and the like immersion and stuff like that is all there, but there's like a slight lack of the sort of nostalgic part of games, which is like the sort of like you say the old silly stuff you can do, and there's like certain aspects of it missing where you would normally be talking about bog standard sort of Easter egg or something like a mini game or a fun activity you can do in like a hub area or something like the mansion or whatever. Like, and that's sort of missing because it's an effort to just sort of bring the game to new audiences. And what new audiences want, I guess, is like to know about the game like an old game, but still have like a lot of fun with it and get immersed in it and stuff like that. And there's like difference in priority, I think.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's definitely why. Anyway, should we move on from old games and talk about sort of the direction that games are heading right now?
Yeah, I can do. So, what do you have in mind with how games are heading?
Well, I'm glad you asked that input because I wanted to talk about everybody's favorite esports. Hooray! Yeah.
Well, to be honest, when it comes to esports, I think it's a good idea.
You think it's a good
Like,
idea?
I think it's a really good
You
idea.
literally just jumped to the fourth bullet point there.
Well, I mean, I wasn't really reading the bullet points. I was just going
Good
to say
man.
my
Yeah, go savor it.
But yeah, let's follow your bullet. No,
No, you say
so
your bit, mate.
like I think honestly they're a good idea because you know it doesn't matter what game that you play. If you're good enough at a game, you should be able to make money from that, right?
Oh yeah.
You should be able to be famous from it because you know if you've got like really fast reactions and really really good fingers, so no sexual puns intended, then you can you that makes you better than everybody else, right? So why not get paid for it? If you say went up against a footballer on the football field, you'd get your ass, you get your shit pushed in. You would get your shit pushed in.
Yeah.
But if that same footballer got onto your specialty, you would push his shit in. Um,
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
leave that analogy alone now. But you know what I'm saying there. So why not be able to make a lot of money on esports? You know, if a footballer can make millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds on kicking a stupid football around the field for 90 minutes. I know that obviously a lot of these guys are in peak physical, they're at their peak physical performance rate or whatever, however you're supposed to say that. But if you're a gamer and you're better than everybody else, why not make some bank off of that?
Mm.
I don't know if any listeners have any of their own comments about this. That would be nice to see. But it's definitely something that I think esports could stand to grow a bit more. Get a lot more people involved. A lot more gamers involved.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what do you think of esports?
I think the whole deal with esports, right, is there are some like really good ones, and there are some ones where it's like, why the fuck does this even exist? This is something we touched on. I think we touched on this last week. If we didn't, then it was a private conversation I had with Lewis and whatever. But like CSGO and Dota 2, right? Like they're really good esports because they're really competitive games by nature. They're really strategic based. They have a lot of team play. And they have like a good structure to them, and they have like a history behind the game, right? To the point where people have been having CS competitions and stuff since like way back in
Yeah.
1.6.
Yeah, because they're based on they're based on competition, is it?
Yeah,
One team that's better than the other. I mean, a lot of esports obviously that is pretty much exactly the same. It's one team that's better than the other, or one person that's better than the other. But I mean, Overwatch, for instance, it's not as successful as CS:GO and Dota, and I don't know if that's because of maybe how the game plays, or if it's too sort of like cartoony, compared to
yeah,
CS:GO or
mm,
Dota 2, because they're sort of like CS:GO is like your everyday shooter, team deathmatch,
mm,
capture the flags or whatever. I've never really played CS:GO. And Dota 2 is just the same map with the same characters doing the same thing over and over again, but it's dark and grungy. I don't know if
yeah,
Overwatch is too light-hearted and not, it doesn't give you that. Maybe it doesn't give people the same
realism or
feeling of,
something. Yeah,
maybe not realism, but the same feeling of, oh my god, have you seen that play that he's just done? What's he done there? I don't think
yeah, I see
Overwatch
what you
gives you
mean.
that because there's you get like ridiculous abilities with Overwatch
Yeah,
and
and like respawns
like
and stuff, which are like really quite
yeah.
easy, and it's all. Yeah, I see what you mean. I think there are two successful branches of esports, right? There's FPS games and there's like MOBAs and stuff.
Oh god, I can't
And
stand
of
MOBAs.
those two categories, like, yeah, I don't know with MOBAs really. They're not my cup of tea, but I can sort of. I mean, I like League, but I don't really play Dota. I don't really like it. But yeah, like so with FPS esport games, right? You have obviously ones like CS, which has like a massive history, and it's like one of the original tactical shooters, right? Like one of the original sort of team-based, um, objective-based sort of game, like FPS games that you could really sort of play on PC at least, that have a sort of background in this stuff with esports, right? Other games like Rainbow Six as well come to mind, like the original Rainbow Six, but that doesn't really have like a big esports scene, I don't think. Um, but yeah, so like I think CS is really good because it's sort of like the rounds are isolated from each other, and the teams all have like an individual sort of mentality, or they have an easily identifiable brand, and you can easily support one team or another, stuff like that, right? Where it gets the audience involved, and they have these big arenas and stuff where they sit people down. They do it many times a year. And as for the gameplay, you sit in this arena or you sit at home watching this stream or this monitor or whatever, and you're watching one player face off against five others with impossible odds and winning a round, and everybody goes absolutely ape shit, right?
Yeah, right. I mean that's those kind of instances. They're kind of like, this guy, he's
Yeah,
not gonna
he's
do
yeah,
this, and then he just pulls
surely not,
this
and he pulls it off.
absolute hail mary and
Yeah,
destroys the other team. They're great. I mean, you don't really get that in normal sports, do you?
yeah.
I
No, you don't
mean,
even get that in normal sports because
yeah,
there's no
it's
real
just
risk or like sort
there
of
is
all or
a
nothing.
massive opposing force, and you've got your one person that needs to overcome this,
Yeah,
and generally one person shouldn't be able to beat five decent people,
yeah,
right?
like one striker versus five defenders in a game of
Yeah,
football, for
yeah,
example.
right. It's
Like
just
no,
not gonna
unless
last.
you're like the best ever player in the entire universe, probably ain't gonna get through
Yeah,
like some like five defenders ganging up on you in such a small area, like on your own. If you had to get from like I don't know 2/3 of the way down the pitch to the goal line and get a goal, it's not gonna happen. Um,
yeah, right.
yeah, so like that's one thing that they do. And the thing is with Overwatch is there's respawns and stuff, and there's like abilities like you say, and there's like loads of stuff where it's not easy, but it's like easier for individual players to be better at the game than it is for them to have to work as a team. Like you don't really have a team execution of an objective, right? Like you do in CS with Overwatch. With CS, you have stuff like utility. You have your smokes, you have your nades, you have your flashes. You decide on a site, you decide on a course of action, you do a preset sort of thing, you go in and you absolutely slay ass or you die, and that's the round over. With Overwatch, you pick some heroes, you go shooting some people, maybe you have a tank and a couple of things, which has like a good sort of element of teamwork. You will sit behind the tank, but then the tank can go and easily like squish two people and make a good push, right? If you there's
Yeah,
a sort of I wouldn't call it there's like a team comp, right, in Overwatch called Goats, which is where you have like all tanks and support. Which you think, hang on, how the fuck does that get anything? But like you just have the tanks and the support like dive on people, and there's like strats like that, which is like this is a pretty cool strat. It's fun. It's really hard to counter. Teams go like really far when they shouldn't in like a competition because of like the strat. But at the same time, like it's easy for just the individual player to do something really good, whereas an individual player facing off against five others in CSGO, it relies on their skill, sure, but like I don't know, they both rely on the individual stuff, but it's easier for Overwatch teams to not give a shit about their team play and just play individually. At least
yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
feel. The other
I'd say
thing, yeah, you go.
when it comes to esports, it kind of needs to be, it's mainly team based, right?
Yeah,
Unless you get into esports racing, obviously you can't really have a team, um, unless there is. I'm not entirely sure about
I mean there are
racing games on
there are
esports.
some like sort of
But I
competitions at
mean,
least.
you you've got I think when you're looking at team-based esports, it generally brings a bit more excitement
Yeah.
because if one team is better than the other, but like you say, if you've got that one guy that's absolutely insane on your team, then it kind of evens out, right? So
Yeah.
it's always really sort of exciting because you think, all right, this team's absolutely amazing, but this team they could just pull it out because of any better strategies possibly, or just sheer dumb luck.
Mhm.
And anything can definitely happen in esports.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at normal sports, it doesn't take you that long to figure out if you do some research that, oh right, that team's probably gonna win. That team's
Yeah.
probably gonna win. It's not hard. Whereas in esports, a lot of different things can happen, um, and that's what I like about esports because it might not be as big in the world now
Mm.
at the moment, but it is definitely getting there. It's
Yeah.
definitely becoming a more famous. More and more people are streaming gamers.
Yeah.
Streaming.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
easier for them to get like the hardware to be able to stream, right? And internet speeds and
yeah,
stuff, and it's all coming together.
yeah, yeah,
I think the other thing to do with esports is like the sort of team side of it. In CS:GO, you have nationalities of teams, and you have 5 players, and they're from Sweden, or they're from Poland, or they're from NA, or wherever. They're from a place, and they have a backstory, and like sort of players, they sort of trade with each other, and you have the player goes to one team, like normal sports, right? And
yeah,
that's something that CS:GO does really well. Is it has teams that you can easily like support, and there's like a rivalry between teams, but there's a brotherhood between teams as well, and like everything is sort of like linked together. And I think that's like one of the biggest things that CS:GO does really well. Now, if you look at teams for Overwatch, you have the Los Angeles Valiant, the Boston Uprising, the New York Excelsior, San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons, Los Angeles Gladiators, Philadelphia Fusion, and whatever that one is. That are like they're they're teams, right? And they're sort of like basketball teams, and they have a location and a thing, and that's their team name. But they're all sort of like they're not founded by like Overwatch and Blizzard, but they have to comply with a lot of like sort of stuff. Like they have to have that sort of name, and they have to have this sort of logo and stuff like that. Where like it doesn't give them like much originality. And if I go to the London Spitfires, which is another team, go onto their Wikipedia page. So the London Spitfires, one of the league's 12 founding members, is the only professional Overwatch team based in England. Cool. That's great, and it's owned by Cloud9. That's awesome. The team fields an entirely South Korean roster. Okay, so why is a team called London, based in the United Kingdom, literally full of South Korean nationals? I mean, I'm not saying that's like not a thing, right? Like, I'm not saying that, oh, they're not allowed in my good English team or whatever. Like, that's not the whole point. The point is that like Ninjas in Pajamas are all Swedish, um, and fucking Virtus Pro, I think it is, are all like Polish and stuff like that. And you've got teams which are like a nationality or like a few nationalities, but they're from a place and they have an identity and this stuff. And then you have like I would never like people are like, oh, you would support an English team. I would never support an English team that's like not that doesn't have like an identifiable sort of backstory behind them, or like. And I mean, I guess you have to be really into Overwatch. I'm not really into Overwatch, but if you have, you know, everybody is from South Korea in this team. So how am I, as a British person, supposed to support people that I didn't even know who they are or what their story is or anything? I don't know.
well,
It
I
might
mean,
sound like I'm being extremely sort of like prejudiced against South Korean people. That's not the intention, but um,
I mean, I think the I mean, I'm not really the kind of person that cares about where you come from. But I understand where sort of like what if you're not English, why if you're not English or British, why would you use London Spitfire? Wouldn't you use something that was recognizable to I mean, if the whole team was 5 Koreans, I don't understand why the name would be London Spitfire.
Yeah,
Not that I
exactly.
care, but
No,
it
yeah.
probably. I mean, what is very famous in Korea that they could use a name from? I
I
mean,
mean, they've got Seoul.
there's
They've got Seoul as a team, I
yeah.
believe. Seoul
Um,
Dynasty. But if I go to let's say I go to the Los Angeles Valiant, I'm pretty sure these guys are a couple of NAs and mostly. Let's have a look. See, the NA team has South Korea, Australia, US, and Canada. Like they have like a fairly there are more South Koreans obviously, but there's like a fairly balanced mix, right? Like they just don't you don't need to have this sort of whole sort of place and thing because the place implies that they're from the place when they're not. That's what I'm trying to get
yeah,
at.
yeah,
Like Ninjas in Pajamas are a Swedish team from Sweden. They have players that are Swedish. That makes sense, and that's the whole sort of. They're all a bunch of Swedish guys who probably met in a pub originally, founded this team, went on to compete and won a load of a load of games and stuff, and got some money. I haven't these people. Sort of teams were created in in guidelines with Blizzard because I know Blizzard have quite strict sort of third party content guidelines. If you have like a YouTube deal with them, and I think this is something that YouTubers like the Yogscast, who do a lot of stuff with Blizzard, have mentioned in the past in some of their videos, they're actually quite restricted on a lot of the stuff they do with Blizzard, in terms of their creative license, and they have to check stuff. And I think I remember um, somebody from the Yogscast saying they have to check 2 or 3 times with Blizzard to make sure that what they've made is okay before they're allowed to use it. And it's there's no individuality to the team, and it's owned by a person.
yeah.
It's the other thing. It's these teams are owned by this guy who's a part of this team. And okay, sure, you've got to have some direction in your team, right? But it doesn't really have that sort of irk of individuality, and that's why I don't really follow Overwatch, is because I don't know what team to follow, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Whichever team is the best, sure, but that's glory supporting. So then whatever team is where I'm from, but I don't personally identify with people like a team of South Koreans saying they're from London, or they're based in London when they're quite obviously not. It's just they're based in
I
this
mean,
place.
are they like Korean nationals,
They are
or
Korean. I'm
did
fairly.
they move to England, or
I can
you know
say
what I
with
mean?
some certainty that they are South Korean nationals. I will check that before I perjure them. Um, but I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure
like,
they were all from. Yeah, they're all South Korean um people playing for London Spitfire. He came up with the name, blah 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 blah. And he is in South Korea according to this. Um, Team London Spitfire doesn't say where he lives. Where I live, obviously, probably wouldn't. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just prefer the CS:GO sort of team style to things, and by extension, games like Rocket League and
yeah.
Dota and League as well, because they will have the sort of the teams that aren't trying to be something. They're just trying to be a group of people with a name that play games. They're not trying to be
Yeah.
the next massive basketball team, right?
Well, getting back on topic.
Yeah.
So, esports itself. I mean, uh, so basically, what you're saying is that you can't identify with anybody because they're not something that you've grown up with, I guess.
Yeah,
Because
I
I mean,
mean, I guess that
esports
too.
is a relatively new thing, isn't it? So when esports comes into it, again, I have no idea when it comes to teams on esports because I haven't been around esports. So I think and when I grew up as a kid, I was around a lot of football, mainly because of my brother and my cousins. They were all into. I couldn't give a flying about football.
Yeah.
But I grew up with it, and because I grew up with it, and it's still on the news, left, right, and center. You're always hearing about teams. You're always hearing about specific players, what they're up to now, what they're up, how good they are, blah blah blah. This is in the news all the time. So if esports was a lot bigger, like a lot of normal sports are, you'd probably be able to identify with people a lot more. Unless you got really into esports yourself, unless you did research, if you went out there and picked a game like CSGO and thought, right, this is good, right?
Mm.
Who on this list of people could I identify? And then you'd go through there and go, oh, that guy seems really cool. Let's
Yeah.
start following him and his team,
Yeah. Right.
and then
Exactly.
you will build up in your mind a relationship with that team, not necessarily like a relationship, but a team the way you can go. This team's really cool. I
Yeah.
actually enjoy it. I like what they're about. I like what they do outside of the team. If they're like charitable or whatever, and they aren't just in it for the money and stuff like that. It's going to be one of those things where unless you surround yourself with esports,
Mm.
you're not going to be able to identify with anybody in esports.
Yeah. I suppose.
Whereas out and about on, if you're watching TV and the news comes on, you get the news, you get the weather, you get sports, and most sports is covered football and rugby, and that
Mm.
shit's thrown at you left, right, and center. It's at the back of newspapers if you read a newspaper anymore. And esports isn't ever really mentioned in our life unless you're on gaming platforms like Twitch.
Yeah.
I mean, what's bigger than Twitch that streams esports? Nothing.
Nothing really. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah. So
GoTV and stuff,
how
like
how many other
HLTV.
websites are like Twitch that streams esports?
Yeah, there aren't, and that's like the whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
so
It's
so esports isn't a massive thing at the moment, but it's probably gonna get there
mm,
at some point where it's gonna be it's gonna be national news. It's gonna be tagged on the end of the news like the football is or like the rugby is,
yeah.
or it's gonna be tagged. It's gonna
I
have its
mean, in
own page
places
in
there are,
newspapers.
not in the UK because the UK esports team is like dire.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
yeah, there are. I think it's Denmark and Norway and Scandinavian countries especially. It's like becoming a massive thing, and like Danish teams are meeting with, I think it's Denmark. You'll have to correct me if it's not. Well, you probably don't know, but
yeah, no.
I think it's like a Danish team. I can't remember who it is from CS:GO. Who have like met with the king and queen of president or prime minister or whatever of Denmark, and they have like big recognition, and there was some big celebration of Danish esports and stuff like that, and it's got like really popular in those sorts of countries where it is a successful sort of thing, right? Where teams are successful. And I
Yeah.
think my whole sort of like thing with esports is that like I like following esports, but there's not going to be an English team because they're quite obviously going to be shit.
Well,
Um,
yeah, up until a
mm.
point. I mean,
I mean,
in the
unless you're going to
future,
be,
it'll probably change in the future
mm,
when esports are getting more and more bigger. When your cash pool winnings are more and more, you're going to get some ridiculous.
mm,
Yeah, not that it's bad, but you're going to get some ridiculously nerdy English people or British people or whatever going. Jesus Christ! I can stop working at Tesco's if I win
mm,
that pool. Let's do some training and get stuck in.
yeah,
Whatever. But I don't think that in esports, I don't think like where you're from kind of matters because
yeah,
there's no country versus country like World Cup
yeah. I
competition
mean,
style.
actually, I think there actually might be in CS:GO.
All right, yeah. But again, that itself isn't like a massive thing because I've never heard of that,
Yeah,
and I'm on my games a lot, and I talk to a lot of gamers and people that are into technology and streaming and whatnot, and I've never really had a World Cup that was a gamers World Cup.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, we've probably spent a bit too much talking about esports. I
yeah,
think, yeah,
yeah. I mean,
but like maybe to close esports, I think
yeah.
it's growing. It's getting better.
Oh
It's
yeah.
getting bigger. There's a lot more games being played. Obviously, there's more and more money every year that's getting
Mm,
put into esports, and then the cash pool winnings of various different games are getting
yeah.
ridiculously big. So esports, from me, I think is a very good thing because it gives it gives the nerdy gamers a
Yeah.
chance to shine, whereas, like, say in England, for instance, or Great Britain, whatever, you're famous for a very few things. You're famous for being on ridiculously stupid programs like Geordie Shore and The Only Way is Essex.
Oh yeah, and
All the
fucking
people
Italian
bar
stuff.
a few
Yeah.
are ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're famous for being on EastEnders and Coronation Street.
Yeah.
You're famous for being a footballer,
Mm.
or you're famous for being music stars or in movies.
Or you've done some charity work as well. Like there are a lot of famous charity people in
Well,
the UK,
yeah,
like people that
yeah.
get recognised
So
by the Queen and stuff.
a lot of people aren't recognised yet as esports because it's just not big in our
Because it's,
country.
yeah,
It really isn't. So I said to close, esports is getting better, and I look forward to hearing a lot of new things about esports. Hopefully, there's going to
yeah,
be it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and
yeah.
hopefully and more people from whatever country they're
Mm.
from get involved, and it becomes a ridiculously good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, right.
yeah. Me too. I follow that sentiment. I think esports is going to be a big thing in the future, and it is getting big, and it's good to follow a team and see what they do. I follow NIP because Ninjas in Pajamas in CSGO, because they have a sort of like relation, sort of tangentially with Arsenal, the football team I follow.
Yeah,
Just based on like the fact that they used to be really successful, they sort of fell off a bit. They're coming back, hopefully. And that's like the whole sort of mantra with my sort of resonance with esports and stuff is that like they're really good now. They're sort of the underdogs and they're coming back, and that's like why I support those teams. Is because I grew up with Arsenal. My dad supports
yeah,
Arsenal. My granddad supports Arsenal. My uncles support Arsenal. It's big Arsenal sort of supporters in our team, in our family rather. Um, and yeah, so supporting NIP is like a way for that to carry forward. Um, and yeah, so yeah, esports, they're cool. Anyway, I think we're going to end it off there. That's the Ascension podcast, episode 4. Thank you very much
yeah.
for joining us,
That
Input.
was it.
It's a pleasure to
Yeah,
have
no
you.
worries. I'd be happy to be back again if necessary.
Oh yeah,
If
definitely.
Alien just can't be asked anymore.
Yeah, I think he was busy helping his friend with building a computer or something. But yeah, it's been great to have you. We've had somehow managed to have some good discussions as we usually do, considering we planned it about 3 minutes in advance.
Oh,
Um,
that's always good. Always good.
yeah, always good. So we're winging it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so that's brilliant. Thank you very much for watching. If you are interested in watching the VODs, you can also watch them on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/RaxNHD. Keep up with announcements on Twitter /RaxNHD, and you can also, of course, watch it live if you're on YouTube at twitch.tv/VaraxNHD. Thanks very much to the chat for being here. We've had some great comments and some great information from everybody. And yeah, so Ascension Podcast episode 4. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time, Saturday at 5 BST. Bye!
See ya.